Hey everyone, I got some updates, changes for the night. Trying to do these daily. Although I probably shouldn't be working this much for this long, but I managed to get some really good changes in today's build. Um, so the first thing that I did was I consolidated the auto regen feature so that it's only one bar. So both your armor regen and your shield regen come off of one bar. So you'll notice that there's no longer a bar here for armor. And the reason why I did that is because I noticed that, especially at lower levels, when you have a really low defense, it was almost like this bar never drained because it never really goes down. Not nearly to the same extent as health. So I just figured, fuck it, why not consolidate them both into a single thing? Uh, the next thing is a lot more complicated. I went ahead and just added the Dark Souls death mechanic. Basically, you drop your shit when you die. Not all of it. Your equipment, your ammo, your weapons are intact, but your recovery items, your materials, your miscellaneous items, and your credits all get dropped. Uh, yeah. So there's a few things that go along with this. Once I added the feature in, you'll notice that various different loot bubbles will actually say, 150 credits found. Well, when you highlight a loot bubble, you'll end up gaining how many credits are contained in the bubble automatically. Uh, I thought about doing credits as an inventory item, but I ran into problems with that because, like, should the item have weight? Like, why is it here and then why is it here? Like, it was kind of weird. It's much better off listing credits in this sort of manner, um, because it just feels a lot better. So with that said, whenever you do get credits, basically you highlight a loot bubble and it happens automatically and it'll say how many credits you earned. I like this a little bit more too because later down the road, like you can add like a sort of sound to it, kind of like when you get souls in Dark Souls when you hear that noise. That is uh, a stimuli for the brain to have sort of a happy thought, happy feeling, and basically every time that you hear that sound, it'll sound like you got credits. It's sort of it's something that sort of it's subliminal almost like, hey, you're badass, you're so awesome, you're getting credits every single time, and it happens fairly often. But yeah, like so, if you go through the loot lists right now, you'll also notice that I changed the text so that it's a little easier to see. Might be a little bit too much. I'm not really sure, but you see now I walk up to these loot bubbles and it'll be like, boom, boom, and basically it just adds right to your credit score. Um, God, credit score. That's something you don't want people to think about when they're trying to get away from real life. Uh, anyway, I also now have the death mechanic. So I'm gonna let these two zombies eat me, or the one zombie. Chomp chomp. Jeez. All right. So I had noticed that the 000. There's nothing here anymore. Equipment and weapons and ammo are unaffected by this, but now you'll notice that there's like a floating icon. That icon is sort of like a skull or a sort of dead face or something. I'll have to get an artist to make better icons. But that just shows you where that loot is. You dropped all that stuff, and I also dropped all my credits. So there it is. There, make sure you fight stuff. If you die, that gets replaced. It's exactly like dropping your souls. In fact, in some ways, this is a little bit more brutal because you're also dropping all your crafting materials. And there it is. I got my credits back. I got my. So at least like there is one thing that's kind of nice is like if you're in the middle of an intense fight and you don't manage to have a chance to like loot the bubble, if you just mouse over it, you'll at least get your credits back. But the crafting materials and stuff like that are going to be really important for making the higher tier weapons, the heavy launcher and the advanced stuff, and the better gear that actually provides like real stats, and then later abilities and AP modules. I haven't even gotten to that stuff. AP modules are for like actually giving you action points, and that ties into the ability system. And currently, right now, I only have it planned for one ability at a time. But basically, like you can drop a healing thing on the ground, or you can, um, send off like a super rocket that does like tons of damage, or I don't know. There's just different types of abilities, like putting a shield in front of you that you can like use and stuff like that. Very kind of Borderlands-y actually. Um, So the death mechanics in, I will show what happens when you get mauled to death. Oh, man, that didn't take very long. So now if I run back out, and you see how there's that skull is there, and if I die again, everything I accumulated over is gone now. Now, now it's this, which is essentially just an empty item cache. There was nothing in there, and you basically just loot it to destroy it. Um, yep. You tend to lose a lot if you die, so you can actually lose all of your stuff. Another thing I did was I made it so the credit chips are not just something that you can use in your inventory. You actually have to bring them back to the home point hub area, in which case you kind of use like a slot machine kind of a thing or something along those lines, and it like not gambling, but something along the lines. I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to work, but it's something. It's sort of a like like not a mini game, but sort of like opening a loot box, but not quite crazy like that. Uh, so there's one more feature in addition to that. I'm gonna make a change while I have this open. Um, I th- I feel like the auto regen doesn't count down quite as fast. God, it just rained out like really hardcore, and now I feel like it's hard to breathe or something. There's like pollen in the air or something. I don't know, fucking 2 o'clock in the morning pollen. What the fuck? It's like I might as well just start up a smoking habit because it doesn't matter. Okay. And there was one more feature that I got into place, which is actually a pretty big deal because it has a big effect on how the game currently or did play before, and that is I added logic for the damage system. Enemies can damage each other, but one of the things I was having problems with was imps blowing themselves up with their own fireballs. And for a little while, I even had a problem where um, the Hell Beast, that like mini boss guy, I actually had him laying AoEs on the ground, and he would just instantly kill himself with it. So enemies of the same type cannot hurt each other. Enemies cannot self damage. I guess that's yeah. Alright, so tomorrow I'll probably get this in fully, but the idea is you throw a bunch of imps in a room, they're not going to be able to hurt each other. It's pretty much how Doom works. Um, but like an imp and a Baron of Hell, they can fight. But two Barons of Hell will never fight each other. That's sort of a thing that I just want to have in this. Currently, right now, what I have is actually not that, but I do check if they are both NPCs, and if this is true, if the attacker is an NPC and the recipient is an NPC, then go to this check here. Now, if the attacker is the recipient, then essentially do nothing. That's self-damage there. I need to have a one more additional check right here where it's essentially just checks to see if they're both the same class, which I think I could actually do real quick right here while I'm on this. You guys can see some blueprinting action in the, as I create a new awesome bug that I wasn't ready for, because that's what's probably gonna happen. Equals. Okay. After a while, this does end up kind of getting a little messy. Overall, though, I still find this easier to look at. Maybe it's just because I've been getting so used to it, but I just enjoy the flow of blueprints. I should probably do some streams where I'm just working, because I've gotten fluent enough at this where I actually feel comfortable where I can kind of do almost anything I need to do, unless it's something that's really out there. Most of the game logic goes pretty quickly, except for I had a couple of bugs that were really annoying. But the one thing about doing the streaming thing is that I really should not be encouraging myself to work even more. Like, I really shouldn't be doing that. Okay, so if the attacker is equal to the same class, so if the attacker here, if the attacker is the same as the recipient, then do nothing. If the attacker is the same, is the equal to this, has the same class as the recipient, then do nothing. But if that's not the case, then go ahead and deal damage. So an imp should be able to damage zombies, but two zombies can't hurt each other unless it's a fast zombie versus a regular zombie, which will never happen. But yeah, okay. Which is a little weird in the case of like two chain gun guys, because those minigunner guys, like, they should probably be able to kill each other. I might have to actually figure out some like better logic for this, because like two minigunner guys should by all means be blowing each other away. So hmm, yeah, I have a feeling that these checks right here will probably expand a little bit, because there's definitely going. So anyway, that's it. That's everything for the features that I managed to get in tonight. Um, the actual death mechanic, where you actually see where your loot is, gaining items, and actually being able to go and like get your items back, being able to actually get credits from loot bubbles, uh, as part of a core mechanic of the game. Oh yeah, I just had a sprinter's potion. I'm moving fast. Woohoo! Not all loot bubbles actually contain credits. Shooting these guys through. 16 credits found. Oh, okay, yeah. Tomorrow I'm gonna keep it kind of light as far as how much I'm doing, but I came up with the idea on how to make a proper placeholder. So basically, I'm going to have just a number symbol, not a not kind of any kind of a symbol or anything like that, but just for blocking the gameplay in and making sure that it's playable and everything like that. Each one of these is going to have a unique material that has a number on it, and this one will be number 1. And anything in the world that is affected by the number 1, which will have that same symbol, sitting on in front of it, or near it, or stuff like that. So basically, when you see this door, I'm also probably going to reduce the combat in this area. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. But basically, the idea is that I'm reducing the combat in this area because I want to train the concept to the player. And the concept is that there are various different things that'll be affected by these in the world, and you have to kind of look at the number. If you see the number 1 over here above this door, then that means that this door will now open once you complete this. And you could probably even do a thing where the material switches from like it starts off as like a red number 1, and then it turns into a green number 1. But when the game actually has graphics, it could be like, cool, like glowing symbol that's unique to this object, and like whatever the artist would come up with that looks really badass, and like that same symbol would be here, and then maybe like it starts glowing when you beat this fight. Now all of a sudden it starts glowing, and it's like very visible. And yeah, that's one of the other things too, is that I show the problem to the player first, which is actually, I'm glad I set it up this way, because this is actually something that I try to do a lot when I'm working on my Doom levels and stuff, is, well, when I'm working on anything, really, is to present the problem to the player before you present the solution, and the solution is over here. So basically, have a really iconic symbol floating above the door, something that definitely looks out of place, that the player will catch a glimpse of. Now, this is important enough that I'm actually going to remove the bad guys, most of the bad guys from this area, and the only bad guys that will be here once I rework this area and add this feature is probably a couple of imps right in front of this. So I'm being very, very specific about this. You walk to this, right in front of you is a door that won't open, and it has this symbol. And then the first thing, like once you kind of fuck around and look around a little bit, is you'll look straight ahead, like fucking like burnt out dead trees and mud and sort of like a weird courtyard area. And then you look right here and you see the same symbol, but it's on a block or a combat like thing. And you walk up to it, channel it, starts a fight, you do the fight, and then once that's over, it starts playing a sound, I don't know, something like that, and the symbol starts glowing, and then the same symbol over here starts glowing. And voila, I've got the core system of how most of the game is going to function. And then you go in here, the monsters will be a little bit higher level, and maybe and you'll have more of the same kind of loot, and you'll have to like be paying attention to like what you're doing, what you're fighting, and how to get everything. And maybe the enemies are a little bit higher level. Like each area, each successive area, the enemies get a little bit tougher and a little bit higher level, and the difficulty curve will start to go up as I start using stronger and stronger enemies, which then kind of require you to have better and better stuff. That particular curve is not something that you're going to experience in the first level to any real degree, but it will be somewhat visible. Like by the time you get here, you probably need to have like a heavy weapon. You're probably going to want to be able to, because you're going to be dealing with more than just like a couple of zombies. You're going to be dealing with like 5 or 6 at a time or some shit like that. Like you'll be like you're going to start mowing down hordes. All right, I'm going to end this now because I probably said that I was going to end this now once already, and this is my second time, and I don't want, a third strike, you're out. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Hell yeah.